any time, like at any time, and it's basically a cluster here, cluster there, cluster here. It's basically clusters. So who's to say that, you know what, and all this stuff, like this cluster is teaching this cluster how to cook, and this cluster is teaching this cluster how to make, you know, clothing and all that shit, and waste nothing, you know, because there really isn't that much to even waste back in those days. Like, you can actually feel it within yourself, just currently how it is today, and you can understand that, you know what, people, just as a species, like how we are, have this like wanting and yearning to get to a higher level of understanding, right? That's actually instilled in us. That's where the term drugs come from. You're talking about Ronald Reagan saying that marijuana is the worst drug known to man. It obviously isn't. You know what I mean? It obviously isn't. When you smoke fucking weed, you're not trying to do harm to people. If you get in your car versus, say, drinking alcohol, which is obviously perfectly legal because the government has their paws on it, you know what I mean? It's cigarettes. I mean, what goes on in a failing economy? The alcohol goes up in price, the cigarettes go up in price. What do those two things do? They're basically something to get you away from the regular fucking whatever, you know what I mean? Right. My idea and my thought, which is actually derived from someone else's thought and idea, that is actually pretty much like a expert in the field, is basically there are aliens. The aliens may or may not have touched our planet at one time or another. Yeah, like just think about the pyramids. The pyramids were built from materials that were from very so far away. Right. And our thought is that they were very primitive and they didn't have the thing. Now, you have to think, the pyramids were built for pharaohs, which in that time could be correlated to the government, which basically everything, all the money goes up to the government, right? All the money, no matter what, no matter what. When you die, all this money goes to the government, right?
Unless you know the loopholes.
Back in those days, the pharaohs were the government. Basically, the people were enslaved, and the people were enslaved. They didn't know their whole entire lifetime is that my only purpose in life is to build this thing for these higher beings, right? So what you had was a whole entire civilization that was building for these higher beings, whether or not they're higher beings or not. But they knew something that someone else didn't know, and that's ultimately what it is, and that's why they say knowledge is power.
It is.
So who's to say even pre that, even before that, because obviously there's manipulation going on. So who's to say even before that, there was aliens, something going on, some kind of knowledge, some sort of something, and it was touched, like our planet was touched by aliens, and I believe that it came vicariously through these plant matters. These plant matters and these organic anomalies in the world. I mean, the only reason why people can grow, for example, the only reason why people can grow, like regular people, if you do enough research, you can figure out how to grow mushrooms. The only reason why people can grow mushrooms is because scientifically it was all figured out, but somehow it was a natural occurrence in nature. And being a hunter-gatherer species, you know, thousands of years ago, who's to say that us, as the animal on the cusp of that, we didn't stumble upon it, ate it, brought you to a higher consciousness because of the chemical reaction that's going on in your brain, and it took you away from being an animal, where now we have fire and we're thinking about lightning differently and we're thinking about these things differently. It doesn't come from just some special person. This person was born special and knows shit that people don't know. Absolutely not. It comes from an outside source. And the outside source, you know, it's just one of those things, you know what I mean? And the reason I can even talk like this is because I'm lucky enough to be able to think differently than most people. You know what I mean? Like, I understand what's going on here. I understand that the money's fake. I understand that, you know, we were taken off of this gold standard. Because silver and gold has been money for over 5,000 years. Right. Like, as a measure of value, it's easily divisible. Right. I mean, can you take an ounce of silver and cut it and fucking say, hey, I'm going to give you half an ounce? No, absolutely not. But the technology that we have right now, I mean, And the reason why gold and silver has been money for over 5,000 years is because it's a finite resource. It's a finite resource where it has to be mined. There has to be manpower in order to pull it out of the earth. And there's only so much of it, the same way of oil and all these other things that basically are being price gouged on a consistent basis when the powers that be aren't having enough money to do whatever the fuck they want. You know what I mean? It's overzealous spending.
Yeah.
You know? But really, I believe, you know, and I see it everywhere. Just us as just, I mean, I see people as no different than animals, because we are really no different than animals. There's no such thing as nature, animals, people. There's no such fucking thing. The only reason why we can see ourselves as such a different thing is because we can do things that other people can't, or other animals can't.
Yeah.
And where does that come from? That comes from a totally different outlook. Where does that outlook come from? That outlook comes from something that happened many years ago, which, you know, could possibly be something that expanded our minds
or
and
brains.
gave us. Well, I mean, it's not even the brains, because you got to think there's fucking animals out there that have huge brains, and so it has nothing to do with the brain. It has everything to do with the sort of technology upgrade. There was some sort of a technology upgrade. Now, who's to say that that wasn't from fucking aliens, right? I mean, we're sitting here, we're breaking down, I mean, we're fucking smashing atoms in that fucking CERN place. We're doing all these freaking marvelous things that are doing a lot of crazy things. But the whole thing is now it's a system where all of these things aren't available to the people unless if there's a dollar value to it. And that's where the whole scheme came in. Because nothing is for free. Where did it come from? It all has to come from, and it's the same thing as this pharaohs and pyramids and shit. We're all led to believe that our purpose in life is to serve this fucking thing, when in all reality, there's more people than there is the system. But systematically, they have all the history behind it. They know, you know, like, countries fall and monetary systems fall all the time, all the time. Like, if you look at our money versus money from other countries, our money is so primitive. The United States dollar, you look at the $1 bill versus any other country, it's very primitive. Like, every other country, they have, like, gold foil and all this shit going on and all these crazy things, you know, and it's basically modern technology. Our money is so fucking fake. And, no, it is. It really is. And it's printed. And what they do is they get,
to back it
and I'm going to tell you what the Bible is. The Bible is when you turn on the fucking TV and they get you to think and believe the way that they think and believe, when ultimately all of that shit is all purposeless. Because ultimately what happens is you live and you die, and that's it. The money isn't real. The money hasn't been real for a very long time. And what we have is we have a whole entire social structure based on a schedule that is based on getting this money, because money doesn't buy happiness, but at the same time, being broke will get you fucked.
No kidding.
So, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
100%.
Money doesn't buy you happiness, but it makes life a lot easier.
Money won't buy you happiness, but comfortability is fucking priceless.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's really what it is.
Summarize, you know, how does that impact you and your goals? Your personal goals?
It doesn't. It doesn't at all.
No.
Because, I mean, I'm just trying to fucking get up in the world like everyone else. You know what I mean? But the thing is, yeah, I'm able to see things a lot differently than other people do. And that's why I come out, that's why I stick out in crowds. You know what I mean? And ultimately, that's all I have. You know?
Well, that's something.
Yeah, for sure. It is.